The Batflip podcast is starting in 3, 2, 1.
And welcome in, everybody, to another edition of the Batflip podcast. Today is February 2nd. I'm Matt here with David, and we are going to be talking about a lot of things, actually. Tons of news the last few weeks here since our last show. We've been doing some quick flips and season previews that have caught a little bit of the news, but going to be a lot to talk about here today. Because the biggest thing is that spring training, this is our last episode before spring training begins. Spring training, the pitchers and catchers report on February 10th for a lot of teams. That's the first day that a lot of teams have pitchers and catchers reporting, and full squad workouts start later in the week. It's a little early this year because of the World Baseball Classic, which we're also very excited about that. We'll probably be talking about that a little bit more here over the next few weeks. But I guess we can start off by David. How are you doing today?
Doing good.
I love the shirt, by the way.
Great shirt, right? It's the first day or the second day of February, which is the first month of actual baseball games. So it's a good time to get back into the baseball swing of things, and it's real exciting. Super Bowl's next week.
Yep.
NASCAR's coming back. Everything's getting ready to ramp up. It's exciting. Who you got, Seahawks or Patriots?
Man, I think it's going to be a good game. I like the Seahawks defense, and I just trust that with their defense, I trust them a little bit more. But, I mean, the Patriots are good. I can't believe they're spoiled by Tom Brady for so many years, and then all of a sudden they got another one. Like, it's nuts. So, but it should be a really good game. I'm excited to watch it on Sunday and put football behind us. It's been a rough year for my football teams and for yours as well, David. So, but yeah. I guess we can start off here and start talking about some of these big moves we've had. I guess, or would we rather talk about the Hall of Fame first?
Yeah, let's start with the Hall of Fame.
All right, let's start with the Hall of Fame. Let's start off on Matt's good note here. So the Hall of Fame ballots were released here this week, or was it last week?
It was last week.
Last week.
Mm-hmm.
And there are two new members of the Baseball Hall of Fame, and the members are Andrew Jones, finally, and Carlos Beltran. So, David, let me get your thoughts on Carlos Beltran. There was a lot of, there's a little bit of controversy with him, as he was kind of thought of as kind of the ringleader of the Astros scandal in 2017. A little bit of that's the main reason he didn't get in on the first ballot. But he got in pretty quick. So, what did you think about Carlos Beltran getting elected, and how does that play into your thoughts on him?
I mean, I was expecting Beltran to get elected. This is kind of how I thought we need to treat the steroid guys too, for the most part, right? A guy that at the end of his career made some mistakes. We don't need to punish the entire Hall of Fame caliber career for it. I mean, this guy was so obviously a Hall of Famer, played elite center field defense for the first 10 or so years of his career, flipped over to playing like left field and DH for the Cardinals, and just made life miserable for the NL Central for years, and led a couple of long postseason runs, ended up winning a World Series with the Astros. And if you want to pull that specific piece out of this career, right, you say that the 2017 thing is cheating, and he didn't need that season, right? That doesn't count as part of his career. Well, he wasn't particularly good that season anyway, and he already won a World Series with the Cardinals. So, I mean, a lot of those accolades and stuff, he already had them.
That actually, I believe, was his first World Series. He got the Cardinals in 2012. He had played in the World Series with the Cardinals, but he had never actually.
13. He was in the World Series with the Cardinals, but
yes,
yeah, I mean, it's a Hall of Fame career before the Astros sign stealing stuff. So I feel like, it's the kind of thing that we needed to have analyzed, like a Barry Bonds before 1999 or whenever he was kind of documented that he started using steroids. That was still a Hall of Fame career, right? So it's like, we should have probably made this same adjustment, but I like it. I think it sets a good precedent for guys that maybe aren't super well liked, well maligned, right? Like they're a little maligned. I think that's a good thing for some of these obvious Hall of Famers. And I guess my other thought is that I'm really happy Andrew Jones got in, but I want way more votes for Felix Hernandez next season. That's my white whale here. I want Felix Hernandez in the Hall of Fame. He feels like he just didn't get the longevity of the Verlander Kershaw group. He should probably still be pitching in terms of his age, because he came around at the same time all those guys did, and they're all still pitching. Just injuries and some of that stuff caught up with him, but he had the same or better peak than all of those guys did. So, we've elected Joe Mauer, who has a short peak. I feel like the short peak thing is gonna need to start being the standard if we're gonna start getting starting pitchers into the Hall of Fame here. And once Verlander, Scherzer, Kershaw get in, I don't know if we're gonna get very many more starting pitchers after that. Like it's gonna get real thin real fast. So, I want to see Felix in. That's kind of the one takeaway I want to see. He made some gains, but not enough yet. I switched to Felix because I want to talk about it, but I want him in.
Yeah, I understand with Felix. I could probably go either way on him. I think he was obviously awesome, but I think there has to be something said for longevity. And you mentioned Kershaw. Kershaw put up like 70 WAR in the same time that Felix Hernandez put up his, and Kershaw won an MVP. I mean, I don't think that's super comparable.
Yeah,
but,
well, I mean, I think Felix was
either way,
effective, but he just played on a way worse team.
I don't think he's as effective as Kershaw. Maybe Verlander, but I don't think he's as effective as Kershaw. I think
Kershaw
forget
was
how
like the
great
all-time.
Kershaw is.
Kershaw's one of the best pitchers of all time.
Exactly. I mean,
it
really is. So, and not that Felix Hernandez wasn't great, but and he
was in
didn't
that
pitch.
combo.
Yeah, he didn't pitch after 2019. He was 33 years old. So
right. He should still be pitching. How it feels.
But he was falling off at the end. But we'll see. I mean, it's a tough conversation. It's a really interesting one with Felix. But just quick thoughts for me. Beltran's different from the steroid guys for me, because the steroid guys, it's pretty proven that they took steroids. And Beltran, while there's a lot of he said, she said about the Astros thing, I don't know that there's the hard concrete proof of him doing that without, it's more of the fact that the Astros, it's more of, it's not, there's not like a test you can point to and say, hey, he tested positive for cheating, like some of the other guys. So I get it. I could go either way on Beltran. He was a great player, 67 WAR in his career, hit 430 home runs. He actually had a really similar career to Andrew Jones in a lot of ways. I think the biggest difference was, Andrew Jones played better defense, and Beltran was a little more consistent offensively late in his career. But made it to 40. They had almost identical WAR in their careers, 67.
Yes,
and
it's funny because that's kind of it's not a dissimilar argument to a Felix Hernandez versus a guy who pitched till he was 40 something, right? So,
well, Beltran played till he was 40, but
he lost a lot of it. You talk about the WAR total. I mean, Andrew managed to get to that number before ever starting to fall in negative.
Yeah,
and Andrew was a couple of negatives in there.
Andrew was at 60 WAR at the age of 30.
Yeah,
and Beltran hit one more home run in his career than Andrew Jones. It was kind of interesting. They both get elected at the same time. Both played center field. But I think I've always felt it was a travesty that Andrew Jones took so long to put him in the Hall of Fame. I think that the fact that he was with the Yankees those last 2 years probably played a part of that. There's a lot of people who are a lot of baseball writers who look bad on those 2 years with the Yankees and also a year with the Dodgers there. So I thought that was kind of, people just didn't like him because he failed with the Yankees and the Dodgers. If he had retired at 30, he would have been first ballot.
Yeah.
Or if he just stayed with the Braves. But very good player. Andrew Jones, I'm glad he got in finally. Grew up watching him. It was pretty awesome. So, pretty much all the thoughts. Both guys I thought were really deserving. There's a bunch of other guys on the ballot who I think will get some run next year. You mentioned Felix Hernandez. I guess Chase Utley didn't get in. He's still on the ballot.
He should be in.
He should be in. So
that'll John Lester comes in next year.
Yeah, John Lester.
John Lester's in next year.
Yeah. I don't know.
Cole Hamels is on right now. He's interesting as well. I just think we have to shift our narrative in terms of these starting pitchers because these are the kinds of guys they are much better than the
Yeah.
crop coming down. Like if Tariq Skubal could blow out his
Yeah.
elbow in 2 years, and he won't be anywhere near
Yeah.
the number. Like even if Tariq Skubal pitches at this level, he has to do this for like 5 or 6 more seasons in order to even come close to the numbers John Lester, Cole Hamels, Andy Pettit, some of these guys on the ballot have put up. So
Yeah.
I am, Paul Skeens looks great, right? We have to give guys right now that look really great. They need to do this for 10 plus seasons to get on these Hall of Fame ballots. And, we've got guys on the Hall of Fame ballots that have done, had seasons at these calibers that are just not getting acknowledged right now by this Writers Association. We just haven't adjusted our expectations. We're still looking at Greg Maddux and Randy Johnson, Pedro Martinez. Like those guys are not coming back.
Yeah.
So we just have to shift our level of what is a Hall of Famer. Because it's like we know Kershaw and Verlander, Scherzer are first ballot. Yeah. There are second and third ballot guys down here that I'm worried are going to get kicked off the ballot. That's what I'm really worried about.
Yeah. Speaking of not getting kicked off the ballot, how about Torrey Hunter staying alive?
Surviving. I love it.
Alive.
It's the perfect amount of honoring for a guy with Torrey Hunter's career, right?
And I am
keep the boat in the water.
Yeah, and the fact that he's in his 6th year on the ballot, which means that he retired like 11 years ago, is absolutely crazy to me. It makes me feel so old.
Right.
So
he was good. He was super good, but he wasn't quite a Hall of Fame caliber player. I won't argue.
Right. He was a good player. He wasn't really near a Hall of Fame caliber.
Him and Mark Burley are the two most fun ones on the ballot.
Yeah, they should be on the ballot every year, but not make it.
Right, just a couple. You gotta give your token vote to your Mark Burley and your Torrey Hunter. They're perfectly below Hall of Fame caliber, but just interesting enough to be, on the ballot and staying on it.
And one last note before we move on, I'm really interested to hear who voted for Nick Markakis. He did get 0.2% of the vote. And also Rick Porcello, who I guess just got it because
he got one. He got one from either a Detroit or a Boston writer.
Yeah,
really liked him and sent him a vote. I saw that one.
I mean, it's still like it's cool, whatever that they got recognized like that. But and I really like Nick Markakis. I always liked him. But but anyway, so I guess we can move on and talk about what's going on around baseball here. Like we mentioned earlier, we've got the spring training starting in just a week or two, and that means that everyone's kind of scrambling. It seems like there's been a lot pop up after it was pretty quiet for a while with the new year and everything. It's just been crazy over these last few weeks. And lots of trades going on. The free agent market's starting to get a little bit filled out, I guess thinned out. So I guess we could start talking about these trades with the first one being, or the first two trades being the New York Mets. They've missed on a bunch of free agents. They had the rug pulled out from under them on a few free agents, Kyle Tucker. And then they signed Bo Bichette, and then they decided to add to their outfield with Luis Robert, who they acquired for Luis Angel Acuna and Truman Polly. And they also acquired Freddy Peralta, who was one of the big trade target guys for the starting pitcher market this offseason. And they traded, and they also got him with Tobias Myers from the Brewers, who has had some big league success. He's a big leaguer. And they traded Jet Williams and Brandon Sproat to make that happen. So, David, what are your thoughts on these two trades? And do you think that this is enough to get the Mets into the same echelon as the Phillies and maybe the Braves that they would like to be in?
The second question, I'm not sure. I think they're moving in the right direction. I think these moves are moves indicative of a team looking to win, and they're good moves. I was quite frankly a little startled by the price for Luis Robert, but then you look at what he's done the last 2 years. I mean, he's been a 650 OPS center fielder. He's been able to play great defense out there, but this is a guy that has struggled mightily at the plate. I don't know if moving over to New York, getting into the spotlight is going to help him any at the plate, but talent-wise, I mean, this guy's got a 5-WAR season under his belt, 30-some-odd home runs in center field, 38 home runs in 2023. This is a guy that we've kind of pegged as a potential MVP candidate if he could stay healthy, but the last 2 seasons, he both hasn't been healthy or effective, and he's owed $20 million on this contract. I think the White Sox, I think you and I both agree, the White Sox maybe bungled this a little bit by waiting so long to trade him, but the fact they got out all the money, which they have, we'll talk about it later. They were able to reallocate this money, and they got a kind of interesting prospect in Luis Angel Acuna. I mean, it's fine, but for a guy with the name recognition of Luis Robert, I'm a little surprised it's so low.
Yeah, I get that. I'm not a big believer in Luis Angel Acuna. It's Ronald Acuna Jr.'s brother. For anybody that doesn't know that,
Shirt I'm wearing.
There you go. I'm not a huge believer. He does have some talent, but I don't think the Mets have handled him very well either. They traded for him, or that they with I believe it was the Max Scherzer trade is where they acquired him. And they've kind of stuck him in the big leagues, but put him on the bench a lot. And this is a young guy. I mean, he's only 23, and he needs at bats, and they're not giving them to him because they've been sitting him on the bench and bringing him in as a base runner, defensive replacement, that kind of thing. I liked him going to Chicago. He'll get at bats there. And then Truman Pauly, I don't know a lot about him. He's just kind of a flyer prospect, it sounds like. So, they didn't have to give up a ton for Luis Robert. And Luis Robert's got some upside, as you mentioned. But man, like you say, he's been bad at the plate. He hadn't been able to stay healthy either. So we'll see if he's able to turn a corner this year and stay healthy. I think if he stays healthy, he'll probably improve at the plate a little bit. That's probably, just having that, in and out of the lineup has probably hurt him a little bit in his consistency. But yeah, so that was a good one. And then Freddy Peralta. It's a big move.
So this the package of Williams and Sproat got mentioned, and I quoted it, and I was like, I would have done this already. Sproat's the third, maybe fourth, depending on your thoughts of some of these Mets pitching prospects, best pitching prospect in the Mets organization right now. And then Jet Williams is 5'8". I mean, the Mets traded away two guys who are 5'8". I'm 5'8". Like, I don't know that there's a more particularly perfect Brewers player than Jet Williams. He's a pretty good minor league player right now, top 100 prospect. But that's never going to prevent me from trading off my prospect to get a pitcher the caliber of Freddy Peralta. I think this trade is. It's not only is it this is the trade that I really like because from the Mets perspective, because it acquires the kind of ace caliber starting pitcher that you need, pulls him out of the NL Central, which I love, and then I don't particularly believe in Brandon Sproat or Jet Williams all that much. Of course, now that the Brewers have him, they'll probably be amazing, but that's two guys that I felt like, if you were going to get a Freddy Peralta, if you're the Brewers, are you not demanding Jonathan? Are you not demanding? You'll probably never get McLean, but are you not demanding a slightly stronger return here? It's a little surprising that they went ahead and pushed this deal in. When the Brewers, man, they'll have Brandon Sproat throwing the gyro ball or something, and he'll be wiping people out some way that I'm not familiar with. But this is what the Brewers do, right? They take their best players when they get expensive and get a little bit older, and they trade them away.
Yeah, this is the last year of Freddy Peralta, and I think that on his contract, and I think that probably has something to do with it, the return being lesser. And I feel like the Brewers, Brandon Sproat is a guy that I didn't trust the Mets to develop, but he's going to be interesting with the Brewers. He throws really hard. He's got some good stuff. He's put up some good strikeout numbers in the minor leagues at times. I think that there's a chance that he ends up being one of these guys the Brewers brings in, and all of a sudden he's amazing. And Jet Williams is pretty interesting too. He strikes out a little bit more than you would like for someone his size. But swings really hard. He does hit for some power though. I mean, he hit 17 home runs in the minors last year. He has great plate discipline, and that's something the Brewers seem to be kind of lacking, compared to what they usually do at the plate. I don't know.
I don't know. The Brewers love them some plate discipline.
They do, but they kind of have gotten away from that a little bit over the last couple of years.
The Brewers love them a guy that has good at bats. It doesn't really matter if he walks or not. They want guys who will take long at bats that are going to select pitches really well. that doesn't necessarily manifest itself in walks, but that is a trait the Brewers love.
That it is, and this is going to bring some of that to back to their organization. So,
fantastic.
like the move for both parties there. But we can move on and get through some more of these. Mackenzie Gore is the next guy on our list to talk about. And Mackenzie Gore got traded to the Texas Rangers, which was really interesting. I don't think anybody really saw that coming. The return for Mackenzie Gore was Gavin Feen, Alejandro Rosario, Devin Fitzgerald, Jeremy Cabrera, Abimelech Ortiz, and
that's it.
So, yeah, so definitely interesting here. David, what are your thoughts on this move?
Yeah, far cry from when the Nationals were asking for Cade Horton plus at the deadline for Mackenzie Gore. You know, I think this is a great move by the Rangers, but I can't believe the Nationals gave up on him already. I guess ownership wanted to get something done. I'm sitting here looking at you know, some of these other trades, even just the Freddy Peralta trade that were done. Like I would rather Freddy Peralta at cost of one to two slightly better prospects than this five package, you know, 5 prospect conglomerate. If you're a rebuilding team, you're kind of this is like a shotgun approach, right? You're just trying to see if something will stick. You'll be lucky to get one of these guys to be a major league piece as good as Mackenzie Gore for the next 2 years. So I'm a little shocked that the Nationals didn't target like a more ready piece. You look at the Marlins got it. Owen Casey, ready piece, right? I mean, the Freddy Peralta, they got Brandon Sproat. He could probably start in the major leagues tomorrow. How did the Nationals not come away with guys that were capable to start tomorrow? Or at least one guy, right? Like this is a team that doesn't have much of anything going. You need to get your team, you know, your people to the park. Now you traded away your best pitcher, and I'm just not excited about any of these players. I like Alejandro Rosario. I think he's a good player. He's getting Tommy John.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I'll say that I think that the Nationals went full blown. We're going to get a lot of quantity that has upside and not somebody who's fully a sure bet. We're not going to get one guy who we think is probably a better bet. We're going to get 5 guys who we think have the upside to be really good. And I think that's kind of what they did here. It kind of makes sense for them right now. They've had their farm system has kind of come up. They made all these trades and drafted high a few times, and it's kind of been a fail.
First pick?
They did, but the guys that they've brought up through their farm system have been a bust, other than James Wood. I mean, it's Dylan Cruz has been a mess. I mean, and Mackenzie Gore, I think they're going to have to flip him for, to get more quantity and do it again. I mean, that's kind of where we're at with the Nationals right now. They're going to be in if they keep trickling 1 out of 5 good prospects make it to the big leagues and have success, and it's going to be a slow trickle of they're going to be like a 65 to 70 win team every year, and they're never going to break through. They got to get some of these guys going at the same time, pick a couple of the guys they have, like James Wood, sign him to a big extension, and build around him. But with the guys that they brought in, if you look at their farm system stinks still. Yeah. Their farm system still stinks, and they had to add a lot of quantity, and they're going to have to kind of keep doing that. So we'll see. This is one of those trades that's going to be risky because there's a chance that Mackenzie Gore goes to Texas and is absolutely insanely good, and that none of these prospects make the big leagues. That's a legit possibility with this one. But there's also a chance that Mackenzie Gore goes and gets Tommy John surgery or something. God forbid. We don't want to see that. But, there's always that chance with pitchers. And then 3 of these guys end up being really good big leaguers because that's the upside of all of these players that they pulled in. So we'll see what happens there. As for the Rangers, go ahead.
I was going to say, and I guess this kind of ties in to what you're about to say with the Rangers. I like Mackenzie Gore in the first half. He seems like the kind of pitcher that has gotten burnt out as he goes in these innings, right? Last year, his first start, he had 13 strikeouts, 1 hit allowed, right? He won our first player of the day in 2025. And he's got immense upside. The Rangers have poached, in my opinion, one of the better pitchers to get moved this offseason, but they managed to do it. I mean, you could maybe argue I think the Orioles might have paid a stronger price for Shane Baz than the Rangers did for Mackenzie Gore. And I really, really like Mackenzie Gore. Like, I like Mackenzie Gore more than Shane Baz. So, from the Rangers' perspective, love this deal, man. They keep Sebastian Walcott, who's their best prospect. That's a guy that, given what the Nationals have been asking for, I thought that initially when they came across, I was like, oh, the Rangers decided they'd part with Walcott. He's far away. He's like the guy that you're talking about to me.
Yeah.
That's a guy who he could be a superstar caliber player or a complete bust, but he's got so much immense potential. If you got that guy, I would say, okay, this is a pretty interesting deal. 2 years of Mackenzie Gore for a top end prospect to take some shots at the division the next 2 years, right? And not try to wait for a guy like Sebastian Walcott to get there after 2 years, right? To kind of supplant Corey Seager. But hanging on to him and getting Mackenzie Gore, that's a pure win to my eye here.
Yeah, I think in a vacuum, it's a good move for the Rangers. The only thing with the Rangers is, kind of sit back and think, where are they going with this? Because this team that they've got right now, it's not good enough. They've got some good pieces. Jacob deGrom, Nathan Eovaldi, Mackenzie Gore. That's a really good 1, 2, 3 in the rotation. But beyond that, they got nothing. And their pitching staff and their bullpen's got Robert Garcia. He's really good. They brought back Chris Martin, who has been really good, but he's 40. And then they don't have a whole lot behind that in their bullpen. And their lineup has Corey Seager, Wyatt Langford. Those guys are really good. Brandon Nimmo they brought in. He's good. But beyond that, Jock Peterson was awful last year.
I have to think Peterson's going to turn it around.
I think he'll probably turn it around to a certain level. But, still, he's 34 years old, coming off a bad year, and Jake Berger,
who knows?
Not great.
Who knows
Evan Carter, I think there's a chance Evan Carter figures it out, but
they have a lot of they have a lot of what the Nationals targeted in this deal.
Yeah,
right? There's a lot of upside and a lot of downside. And what are we going to get with the Rangers?
So
I don't know.
It's interesting with them. It's an interesting team. There's a world where they are really good this year, and maybe even are like a real contender if they can just get some depth step up. But the drop off from their top players to the middle tier to lower tier, their third best hitter is Brandon Nimmo, but beyond that, Jock Peterson's their fourth best hitter. That's not great in 2026. So we'll see what happens there. But in a vacuum, I like the deal for both sides. Mackenzie Gore had a couple years of control, but there are some questions about him. So it's not like you're trading a surefire ace, which is what the Nationals thought they were trading at the deadline last year, was a surefire ace, and they were wrong. So we'll see what happens. But I guess we can move on to the next one. We've got Brendan Donovan traded to the Mariners. This actually happened today, I believe, for one of the most interesting prospects in all of baseball, Jurangelo Cinche.
I think it's just Cinche.
Yeah, that's right. Ty Pete and Colton Ledbetter, and they also get a comp pick from the and then the Rays got Ben Williamson. And so I don't know.
Baseman from the Mariners, yeah. So it's a
so I don't
deal.
know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know who all is coming from where when it comes to the prospects here, but it's just happened today. But
I think everything was Mariners except for the comp pick. I think the comp pick went from the Rays over to the Cardinals, and then the Mariners sent Williamson over to the Rays for the comp pick.
Yep. That makes sense.
But I don't, it's interesting because, the Cubs have a couple of second basemen, so we've been analyzing them. And I took a look at Brendan Donovan. This is very much a poor man's Nico Horner right now, right? He's a guy who's hit 3 WAR each of the last 2 seasons, very solid player, able to play all over the diamond, which is kind of a major plus when it comes to this Mariners team. They're very flexible with their need, but their need is offense. And so, they might need the offense at third base. They might need the offense at second base. Depends on when they want to play Cole Young, Colt Emerson, if he comes up this year. They can move Donovan to the outfield potentially. The flexibility, the utility is the value, I think, for the Mariners, and that they get away without giving up 2 of their top prospects, I think, is how the Mariners feel like this has got to be a success. Donovan's, like I say, he's a 3-WAR player. So this is not the same caliber of player, in my opinion, to Freddy Peralta or Mackenzie Gore, who, in Peralta's case has been a 5-WAR player. In Gore's case, probably feels like a 5 to 6-WAR type of starter in there. Donovan feels like a 3-WAR guy. He's just going to be, the value is going to come from the roster flexibility. You can start him at third base, second base, any outfield spot, feel good about it. He won't play great defense there, but he can stand out there and play, day to day. And you give up just Angelo Cinche, who it was announced this week is no longer switch pitching. Sad. But he's an interesting top 100 prospect. The right side is really, really good. Greg, at Ivy Futures, Greg Zumack, our draft guy, he loved Cinche coming out of the last draft, and I think that's the best player that gets moved in this deal. I think he may be ready this season. Cardinals have been targeting pitching, man, but I love the Cardinals trading away good players. That always makes me feel good. And I think Cinche is an interesting enough piece that will probably start to get some run maybe at the end of this season, potentially beginning of next season for the Cardinals. But, they trade away Brendan Donovan here. The fire sale continues. I like that the Cardinals are bad, man. That's going to be very nice.
Yeah, and I'll say that with this trade, Cinche is weird. He's a weird profile, with the switch pitching and everything. His career.
Well, he's not doing it anymore.
Well, I know he's not, but I'm just saying, like that's kind of been his calling card, right? Like that's why he was drafted in the first round. It's been his calling card.
No, he's really good.
I mean, he's good.
His right side is really, really good stuff. He's like 97.
He is good. But I'm just saying that, like, it's not with Cinche, like it's not like this is some traditional prospect who has been, because he's probably got a lot of projection left with him just swapping to pitching from one side. It's interesting. Ty Petey, I mean, he's interesting too. He's one of these guys that if it clicks for him, he's got really good raw power and really good speed. But he's probably just not going to hit. He struck out 31% of the time in high A last year.
Yeah.
So that it's just rare that a player strikes out that much in A ball, even though he's only 19 years old. It's really rare that a player strikes out that much and becomes a really good big leaguer. It's not unheard of, but it's rare. And right. I think it's kind of dart throws. And Brendan Donovan I think he's a great fit for the Mariners. I think he's a great fit for them. They need consistency at the plate. They need some own base guys. And that's what Brendan Donovan's going to bring you. He's not going to kill you in the field. He's going to bring you a 120 WRC plus-ish and a solid defense and solid enough base running every single year. And he's pretty young. He's only 29, and he's under control until 2028. So he's got 2 years left. I love this for the Mariners. I don't think the guys they gave up are going to be stars, and I don't think Brendan Donovan's a star either. But I think they got a really solid big league player who's going to add a lot of depth to their lineup for a team that hopes to be a contender once again and was an eyelash from the World Series last year. So I like this move for the Mariners. But I will say this. Somehow Ben Williamson's going to end up being the best player out of this whole deal because he got traded to the Rays. I don't even know who that is, but he got traded to the Rays. That means he's going to be good.
Yeah, I think he struggled in his time
with
the major leagues, and I think the issue for Ben Williamson, if I saw it correctly, was that he didn't pull the ball.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's right-handed hitting the other way. So if Ben Williamson goes to the Rays, starts pulling home runs.
Yeah, he's going to hit 20 home runs this year. Mark it down. He's also a 70 grade fielder, but very interesting. Weird player for the Rays. So there you go. A couple more trades, smaller ones here. The White Sox are making moves. Right after we recorded a White Sox podcast episode, White Sox season preview episode. Gage Zeal is the newest Chicago White Sox.
No, he got traded from the White Sox for Jordan Hicks.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry.
Yep.
I'm sorry.
Other way around.
Jordan Hicks is the newest White Sox player. Gage Zeal got moved to the Giants.
Red Sox.
Was that
Red Sox.
That's right, man. I'm so
I
out of
didn't
control.
put it in the. It's my bad. I didn't put it in the thing.
Yeah. I promise I can get this right. Gage Zill got moved to the Red Sox for Jordan Hicks and David Sandlin. The White Sox used some of the White Sox did in this trade, and you know, I'll give you a chance to talk about it in a second, but they did exactly what a rebuilding team should do in this trade. They used some financial flexibility that they have from trading Luis Robert to buy a prospect in David Sandlin, or a young pitcher that they think they can develop. And they also got Jordan Hicks, who might be able to give them some innings. So I thought it was a great decision by the White Sox to make this move. So
yeah, I like the move by the White Sox. I was a fan of Gage Seals in his draft year, but he hasn't performed particularly well in the White Sox farm system. So he hasn't, so he hasn't risen really up
all the farm systems.
Yeah, he hasn't really risen up the board any. Sandlin is interesting. He's probably major league-ish ready as well, so he may get some time. But this is what that White Sox front office has kind of done. They've gone out and you saw Shane Smith last year. Their Rule 5 pick. They're targeting young starting pitching, and then I think my wager would be they put Jordan Hicks back in the bullpen. We're going to talk about another, I think, 2 more White Sox moves as well. So we get to talk a lot about the White Sox here. But I mean, yeah, like you said, I like this move. There's really no downside. Zeal doesn't seem like a major league caliber pitcher. Sandlin seems a little bit closer to that aspect. And then they take the Jordan Hicks money off of the Red Sox books, and they can do that because they have a bunch of flexibility right now. So I like it.
Yep, absolutely. We can move on and talk quickly about the Twins. They traded Edouard Julien, Auburn legend, and Pearson Ole for Jace Kaminska. So don't know too much about the trade here. I will say that Edouard Julien has really good power, and that will probably be pretty good with where he's going.
Yeah, put him in Coors. I'm interested. That's why I even threw this in here. I would pencil Edouard Julien in as potentially the Rockies' best hitter next season. He's had some pitch selection issues where he doesn't really whiff, but he strikes out a lot because he spends a little bit too much time looking at the ball down the middle of the plate. If that guy could swing the bat a little, and when you get to Coors, I'm sure the lesson is going to be that you got to swing. You got to swing, got to hit the ball, you got to put it in play here. The advantage is all yours. Swing and hit it and put it in play. And if Edouard Julien can get to that point, I think that's a really interesting piece. The Rockies have had an interesting but quiet offseason, but that could be an impactful move.
Yep, I liked it for the Rockies to get Julien. I hope he does really well there. There's some he was one of those guys that you remember him from playing in college because he made some hits, had some crazy home runs he hit in college. I remember him hitting an opposite field home run over the scoreboard at Auburn Stadium that went like 450 feet. And I was like, man, this guy's a big leaguer. And so very cool. Hope he does well there. But while we're about to start talking about some signings. We're done with trades now for the moment. But before we do that, just a reminder, if you're watching us, like and subscribe. A lot of our viewers are not subscribed to our channel. We would appreciate it. We appreciate all the support we get. So it'd be great if you could like and subscribe. Just click the button. It doesn't take too long. But yeah, we can move on now and talk about some signings. So the first signing we were going to talk about happened today as well. And that would be Eugenio Suarez getting signed by the Cincinnati Reds for a 1-year, $15 million deal. So, David, I know you are now terrified, but you are a Suarez fan.
Yes.
And he's going to Cincinnati. It's pretty cool. Back where he started. Or
I'll tell you what,
but back where he was, kind of made his name.
I tell you what, as a Cubs fan, absolutely terrified. He's going to hit 10 home runs against the Cubs this year. But as a Eugenio Suarez dynasty owner, thank you for Matt for the trade last season. I could not be more thrilled. He's going to a place that is completely contagious for right-handed power. Cincinnati is the perfect place for him to go and try to mash again. It fits, it fits funnily. It fits a lot like Arizona, right? Like, and he got 30 home runs before the deadline last year. I love this fit. It's a great opportunity for Suarez to rebuild some of that value. They said they're probably not going to play him at third base every day. It really is just going to be another first base DH type in this Cincinnati group organization, which is just chock full of those guys. I don't know when they're going to try to maybe trade a few of those away and get some other players in there. But, I'll be excited to see Suarez hitting against every team but the Cubs, hopefully. And, he's going to mash in Great American Ballpark. This is an easy slam dunk, good move. Funny note on this was that the two teams it came down to were the Reds and the Pirates. Oddly enough, the Pirates have really, they're going to win the We Tried sweepstakes this offseason for sure. So disappointing from that perspective. I think he would have been real interesting there as well, but the power certainly fits better in Cincinnati here, and I think that'll be a success.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agreement. Suarez is going to hit a lot of home runs in that ballpark with the short porch. I think it's a good signing there. Cool to see him go back. So our next one we got on the board here is Sir Anthony Dominguez, who signed with the Chicago White Sox on a 2-year, $20 million deal. I thought this was kind of interesting. It's kind of weird that Sir Anthony Dominguez signed with the White Sox. And that the White Sox were willing to spend, this is real money. It's just $10 million a year for a reliever. So he was good last year. But David, your thoughts on the White Sox signing Dominguez?
This is the weird part about this deal is that it's 2 years. Why isn't this like a mutual option second year? And then you can flip Sir Anthony Dominguez at the deadline for a prospect. If you're the White Sox, you're probably not going to be contending. He will get to close. I don't know. I mean, he might close, I guess. You got, I think it's Grant Taylor. They could theoretically also be the closer over there. I would have thought this would be a 1-year deal. And it would make a lot of sense if it was a 1-year deal. The confusing part of this is the 2 years, because now you're not trading him at this deadline, which takes away one of those assets the White Sox could conceivably move. This isn't really a team that can sell at the deadline. There's not a whole lot of pieces that could be non-tied down, and you could potentially have a really good first half from Dominguez and then not be able to move him at the deadline because nobody wants to take on the second year. So a little bit of I would call it a misstep in this case. I defer to some White Sox fans for some extra piece. There's nothing I dislike about Sir Anthony Dominguez, right? He's a good reliever. The money's a little over the top, but I mean, that's just the price you're going to pay in this, market for free agent relief help. But the second year is what's puzzling. And if Dominguez comes out of the gate really strong, it's going to look like a misstep.
Yeah, absolutely. Dominguez is, he's a solid setup guy, I think, at this stage. And you never know. I mean, if he has a really good year, he's kind of got that upside to just have a great half season where would like the fact that he has a second year too. And I think the White Sox are just kind of betting on him having a really good year and being like a closer level pitcher. And then, he's signed to a good deal at that point. So it's just interesting. And I don't know that the White Sox don't believe that they're just a couple years away, honestly, too. I mean, I don't think they are, but the White Sox might believe they are. So we'll see. It's definitely interesting. I wouldn't spend $20 million on a reliever if I was the White Sox in their situation, but I mean, signing good players it's not my money. So, but last time we'll talk about the White Sox here today, at least unless something happens. Austin Hayes, another signing of the Chicago White Sox. They don't have much outfield personnel right now because especially after the Luis Robert trade. So Austin Hayes is going to be an answer to that. Maybe not the answer to that. It's going to be a potential answer to that. He wasn't bad last year in Cincinnati. Not great, but he was fine. And he got signed like a fourth outfielder type player. We get signed for 1 year, $6 million.
Yeah, no. Austin Hayes' role is going to be kind of the right-handed answer to the Munetaka Murakami signing. He's very much a lefty masher. That's where all his value comes from. His lefties, his WRC plus versus lefties was like 150 last season. So this is a lefty killer, basically. Right now the White Sox outfield is just him, Andrew Benintendi, and Brooks Baldwin, and then potentially Everson Pereira. So lots of plate appearances to go around. But this is that 1 year deal I was talking about, right? Austin Hayes goes nuts versus lefty. Somebody's going to need help down the stretch. A contender's going to need help down the stretch next year. Flip Austin Hayes at the deadline. Pick up a nice, interesting little prospect there, and it's money well spent.
Yeah, absolutely. Next move on our list, got a couple of Giants moves. They've been active this week. The first one that we'll talk about is going to be Luis Arias. He signed a 1 year, $12 million deal with the San Francisco Giants. Very weird player. Luis Arias is literally never strikes out. 3% strikeout rate in 2025, but he also never walks. He parlayed that 3% strikeout rate into a 327 on base percentage, which is pretty average, and he has no power.
Right.
Plays really the DH and doesn't run the bases particularly well, although this year he stole 11 bases, which is better than he's done in his career. So maybe that part of his game's improving a little bit. But David, I know you've always liked Arias more than I do. What do you think about this move?
I think this is weird. See, it feels like the pivot that Buster Posey's made. Posey's been very player friendly. He believes in guys maybe that are either older or positionally a little bit different. So he's planning to play Luis Arias at second base. You brought it up in the intro to him, right? He's kind of been a DH the last couple of years. He's just not that good a fielder. For as talented as the right side of the Giants infield is, the left side, or I guess the left side of the Giants infield is as talented as they are defensively. The right side is not there, right? Between Arias and Rafael Devers, there may need to be additional adjustments when it comes to the infield and potentially move to DH for somebody over there. But offensively, I love it. I think the only better place I felt like was going to be Colorado. Still waiting on that deal to happen, but Arias gets a really big right center field with which to work. Going to be real tough for other teams to stop him from basically smashing the ball to right center field gap. He's got enough back control that I think he can take advantage of the spacious outfield in San Francisco. I think that you mentioned the 327 on base. I think it'll improve in a lineup like this where, I think that the Giants are a little more analytically inclined than the Mike Schilt Padres. They were leading him off and stuff, hitting him second behind Tatis. Like you're going to get their best pitches. You're never going to get the right pitch to hit. But if you can hide this guy ninth in your lineup as your second leadoff hitter, right? Yeah, they have to attack him that way. And then that's where you're going to get your value because he's not going to walk. So you need him to be hitting singles and doubles into and triples, I guess, into the gap in San Francisco. So I like this fit a little better, but I especially like if San Francisco figures out that he's not a second baseman and they kind of move things around to accommodate that.
Yeah, this is for the money. It's not terrible for a swing on him, but I'm just not a believer in his profile. I think that just being a contact only, he's an average guy. Like he's an only average guy, and that's just not what I would look for if I was trying to build a team. But we'll see what happens there. Giants made another move, and they also brought in Harrison Bader on a 2-year, $20.5 million contract. I thought this was a really interesting move. Harrison Bader was awesome last year. Nobody really talked about it. He put up 3.2 WAR. He played good defense again in center field. His defense is maybe not quite as good as it once was, but he put up a 122 WRC plus. A lot of that was batting average on balls in play driven, but man, he had a good year. 17 home runs between two teams. He started with the Minnesota Twins. He got traded at the deadline to the Philadelphia Phillies. Had a 129 WRC plus with the Phillies in the second half after the trade. So very interesting guy there. And the White Sox get him for 2 years. So David, do you believe that Harrison Bader is going to be the 2025 Harrison Bader, or is he going to be the guy who had like around a 78 WRC plus average for the 3 years before?
The thing about Harrison Bader is that he's been the same type of player for the past, since he came into the league, basically, where he's a lefty killer, defense first center fielder that could start on a team that maybe isn't contending, but if you're starting him every day, he's going to probably get hurt. So, and then get exposed versus good right-handed pitching. Yeah, that's kind of been the issue with Harrison Bader all along. But in terms of what the Giants needed, which was an increase in outfield defense, being able to shuffle Jung-Hoo Lee over to the corner so he doesn't get hurt as much. I mean, it's a kind of a no-brainer, right? This makes a lot of sense. I like the deal. He's not going to be this good, right? Especially not in Giants Park. I'm thinking like a 90 WRC plus in center field, but if you couple that with good center field defense, it's like 1.5 to 2 wins above replacement if he plays the whole season. That's good stuff. That's exactly what you're probably looking for in this deal. They paid him $20 million. I mean, if you're calling a $10 million a win, he needs to just be a 2-WAR guy. It's kind of what we're expecting from him anyway.
Yeah,
perfect fit.
I think if Harrison Bader plays above average defense in center field again and puts up like a 90 WRC plus, I think that's good enough for a contender too. If you've got a really good lineup other than him, he can't be your star, but I think he's a fine starter on a contender too. But we'll see. I mean, there was just a couple years ago he put up like a 78 WRC plus or something. So
69 actually.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty bad. So, anyways, we'll see what happens there. Our next move to talk about, we will just briefly mention these last two signings here.
Mm-hmm.
Yoan Moncada signed with the Angels, 1 year, $4 million. Kind of not much there, but he played for the Angels last year, I guess. And Taylor Rogers,
it's Taylor,
brother of Taylor Rogers, is back with the Twins, which is pretty cool. That's where he started his career, made a name for himself. He's a
Cubs legend.
He is a Cubs legend. He's still been pretty good these last few years, although the analytics on him aren't great. So going to be interesting to see if he can go back to the Twins and have some success this year. It'll be a cool story if he does.
Yes.
Any thoughts on those guys?
I found him to be. I thought Taylor Rogers was totally cooked from his Cubs tenure. I think he was one bad outing. He was one bad outing from getting cut before the playoffs ever hit. So then they didn't use him at all in the playoffs. So it was, he's fine. Moncada to the Angels is a good move, right? Just get him back there. He'll probably either start or, play a little bit. Moncada's issue has always been the injury bug. I wish that guy could stay healthy, right? There's a lot of talent there, but it just has never manifested itself into the great player that I kind of felt like it would be back when he got traded for Chris Sale.
Yeah, absolutely. Former number 1 overall prospect.
Mm-hmm.
Just that never he's been a big leaguer for a long time, so it's hard to call him just a total bust, but he's never panned out into a good.
He hasn't met the same expectation.
He hasn't met the expectation. That's definitely true. But a few more things here before we wrap it up. The Twins have fired Derek Falvey.
It's the GM.
Interesting move. He's the GM.
Was
really interesting. Yeah, was the GM. It's really interesting. It came just a couple days after the Vikings fired their GM too. So in Minnesota. So I don't know what's in the water there. But the Twins had a couple of really good years there. They've just had injury-plagued guys who have not been able to stay healthy, and they just kind of are on their, they're kind of just ready to go into another rebuild. It looks like they've moved a bunch of guys at the deadline last year. There was a world where everyone that the injuries were just bad injury luck, and they figured it out. But it looks like they're not gonna take that chance here. And they moved Correa at the deadline. They moved
Jackson Varland.
Yes. They probably are going to move Joe Ryan at some point.
By the time, I'm guessing. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's Yeah, not great. And they're gonna want to get somebody else to kind of lead them through their next phase and do this rebuild. So hopefully it's a quick one. The Twins fans deserve great things.
I can't believe this core didn't make it work.
I know I hate it, man. But it's one of those things where I don't think it was totally flawed in the way it was built. It's just injuries, man. Like Byron Buxton, Carlos Correa,
Royce Lewis.
Like it's just all injuries, and
I'm not. It's my disbelief is purely out of this should be a good team. Like it should. Last year's Minnesota Twins team should have been a good team and was not, and that's really annoying.
Yep. And I will say this about the Twins this year, and this is a team that in the AL Central, if they stay healthy, they could still surprise. I mean, they really could because, they still got Buxton, and they've still got Ryan. I don't know. They got the Fangraphs gives them a 35% chance to make the playoffs. They released their playoff odds today, so it's kind of one of those things where if they play really good in the first half, maybe they don't sell, and that's probably why they're holding on to Joe Ryan. And if Royce Lewis and Byron Buxton stay healthy for once, that maybe they're in it. I don't know. It's just I don't think it's super likely, but anyways, we'll see what happens. But the Twins will be going through a search for their next GM. I'm sure they're hoping to get that done pretty quick. Yeah, it's pretty late in the offseason. Kind of weird timing on it. But they must have just been ready to move on to the next phase here. Couple extensions to talk about today. Jacob Wilson, the A's young shortstop, got a 6-year, $70 million extension. The A's continue to lock up young players, which is kind of awesome to see. John Fisher spending some money, which, hey, you know what? Give him a little bit of credit. I know everyone hates John Fisher, and there's a lot of good reasons for that. But I mean, he did say that he was going to increase payroll, and they were going to be ready to go when they got to Vegas, and that's what they're doing. I mean, they're spending more money. They're extending guys. They're building that core up to where when they get to Vegas, they might have a chance to compete. And believe it or not, I mean, this team, do they not have some form of a chance this year to compete for their division? I mean, I don't think they do because the pitching staff, but their offense they got a great core on offense. They really
offense is awesome. I love the offense, and I love this move. I think Jacob Wilson is like if you took Luis Ariz and gave him a 10% more power
and defense
and an elite athletic defensive profile, right? Like he's got all the coaching and stuff from Jack Wilson, his dad, who was a defensive wizard back when we were kids. And now Jacob Wilson is out here, playing defense for the A's, and he's been good. He's been a good defensive shortstop. And I think as these young shortstops, we saw it with Bobby Witt Jr., as these young shortstops come up, get acclimated to playing Major League Baseball, they get better, right? The next couple of years are going to be really good years defensively, I think, for Jacob Wilson. Now, I think it's real possible the BABIP comes back down to earth, and this guy struggles a little bit at the plate, but I think those struggles are going to pretty much always be mitigated for the duration of this contract by the defense. And then you'll have some of those years where he has a 400 BABIP and it has 6-7 WAR, like joke intended. Like it's just that's the level of player Jacob Wilson can be. This is a guy who had 400 and 225 plate appearances. Sorry, 433 and 225 plate appearances in the minor leagues in 2024. Like this guy is a really, really good.
Looks like we're losing David here.
Keeps freezing on me.
Yeah. But yeah, you're right on Jacob. Right on with Jacob Wilson. Great defensive player at shortstop. Got the elite contact back, kind of like Luis Ariz, but with a little bit more pop in there, and really good base running. We believe will come with him. I really like this move for the A's. He's also a rookie, very young. I think he's going to be good. Another extension. We talked about the Hall of Fame a little bit earlier. I think this guy will end up in the Hall of Fame. It almost certainly will if he just has a couple more good years, and there's no signs that he's slowing down at all. And that is Jose Ramirez, signed a 4-year, $106 million extension to stay with Cleveland. I don't know why we've got that as I think there's a lot of weird options and stuff in it, right?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think
It's a 7-year 175.
it's 7 for 175, but it's tacked on to the
It's tacked on.
previously
Okay.
existing 3
Gotcha.
years remaining.
Right. So
Starts in 2026.
he gets 4 additional years, which I believe start when this has him signed till he's 40.
He has 3 more years after this year.
Yeah.
He is currently 33, and then this is a 4-year extension.
Yeah, he'll be 40 when this contract ends. Jose Ramirez shows no signs of slowing down right now. He's still extremely good, age 33. Good on the Guardians for doing this and locking him up, and good on Jose Ramirez for being one of the rare players in this era who wants to stay with a team like that forever.
Yeah,
I think it's good for baseball when you have a player like Jose Ramirez that stays in a market like Cleveland long term. I think it's awesome. So good on him, and good on the Guardians here.
Yeah, for sure. This may age poorly, right? As all these kind of contracts do. We're going to talk about a guy who signed an extension to stick around in a place, and it has not worked out. And his teammate, Manny Machado, is another one that signed one of those re-up the deal well before the deal ends type of extension. And that one's, it's fine, but it's the type of deal that could get really hampering for a group that changed their spending habits like San Diego did. The good news about the J-Ram deal here is he's been underpaid his whole career, but he's also made almost $2 million over the course of his career. Like he's still made a good chunk of money. But it's been, this is the type of guy, like you said, first ballot Hall of Famer. I would say he's a first ballot Hall of Famer if he retired tomorrow. But he's going to put up more, good counting stats and stuff. He's going to get 300 home runs next season. Like he'll probably get 300 stolen bases next season too. He's got 2 more stolen bases than home runs in his career, which is awesome. He's going to get 1,000 RBI. Like this is a guy who's we're going to be on Hall of Fame watch for the next 7 years. And, hopefully he'll get a nice retirement tour, play good the whole way through. And we'll get to talk about him as one of the all-time great third basemen.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic player, Jose Ramirez. Last guy to talk about here before we finish up this episode, Yu Darvish. There are rumblings of his retirement impending. It sounds like he's trying to work something out with the Padres to make that happen. He's owed a pretty good amount of money. I think he's still got like 3 years left on his deal, which was one of those really weird deals the Padres signed to sign a guy that was 36 years old to like a 7-year deal.
And under contract for 2 or 3 more years too. They didn't need to rip it up.
It was such a weird signing there, but Yu Darvish has talked about maybe walking away from some of the money. For some guys, money isn't end all be all. And, I know he had dealt with some things last year where he had to leave the team for a while before the, late second half of the season. So, if it is the end for Yu Darvish, great career. I know, David, you're a huge fan of Yu Darvish.
Absolutely.
He's always been fun to watch, really entertaining pitcher, throws so many different pitches, and strikeout artist as he's always been. We'll see if maybe he ends up pitching this year, but it sounds like it's probably not going to happen.
That's a shame. He's the kind of guy it feels like his effectiveness didn't edge on fastball velocity. It's the kind of guy who could go, 6 innings in a row without ever throwing the hardest fastball he could possibly throw, just because he had so many offerings that could do so much. I felt like the deal wasn't all that bad because he was the type of pitcher that could craft his way around the velocity drop that's definitely come on as he's gotten older. But he's still throwing 94 last season. It's just, I think this is an off the field issue. I think Yu Darvish would be happy to continue playing out the rest of his contract as effective as he could be, but there are some things going on off the field that we're not privy to, that I think he's kind of rearranging his priorities, and I wish him all the best. We can close out the episode. We started off the episode talking about the Hall of Fame. We can close it off with saying, I don't think Yu Darvish is going to meet Hall of Fame requirements, but I think the major crux with that is that he pitched the first 6 years of what would have been his career in Japan. And if you tacked those years onto his major league years, this is a Hall of Fame caliber player, no doubt. But unfortunately, he started at age 25 and he only made it to age 38. But the total numbers just aren't quite at that same level. We talked about Lester, Hamels, Pettit, some of those guys, Felix Hernandez, some of those guys that are on the ballot right now. He was going to make the Hall of Fame ballot, and that will be where that'll be where he gets, and that'll be a good honoring for a great career. But
36 WAR for his career is really not in the category of Hall of Fame.
Right.
Unless you're a reliever.
It's not even in the high peak guys.
Yeah. And you mentioned the fact that his longevity is a problem, the fact that he came over at 25. He also has dealt with a lot of injuries in his career. He's only hit 200 innings one time, and that was in 2013 with the Rangers. But he's had years of 144, 100, 40, 76, 136, 81, and 72 since then. And with one of those being a shortened season in 2020, which I believe is the year he almost won the Cy Young, by the way. So it was. This is not a Hall of Fame career, but it's a very good career, and Yu Darvish deserves to be remembered. And honestly, his impact on baseball is way more than I think anybody realizes, because he was an inspiration for a lot of these Japanese players who have come over in recent years that are superstars at the stage. Shohei Ohtani being one of them. Shohei Ohtani, Yamamoto. Sorry, I'm out of it.
Yamamoto's a big Darvish guy. Suzuki's a big Darvish guy.
Yeah, Kodai Senga.
And then Shota Imanaga talked to Yu Darvish before signing the contract with the Cubs. And Yu Darvish on the Padres said, go to the Cubs. Told him to go to the Cubs. So, he's been very impactful in bringing over Japanese talent. And I think that's a really good point, because before Yu Darvish, you had Hideki Matsui, and a couple of other guys, but really, even Daisuke Matsuzaka, no one had an impact like Yu Darvish did on what is now the current faces of baseball that are all Japanese players. So, that impact can't be overstated.
Absolutely. So I guess that'll wrap it up for us here on this episode. We will be back with some more season previews coming, and then in a couple weeks we'll be back to talk about the beginning of spring training. I'm sure we got a few guys left out there. I believe Framber's still out there for the taking. Zach Gallen's still out there for
a lot of starting pitching.
Definitely some interesting pieces, and a lot of teams that still kind of need some starting pitching as well. We mentioned the Rangers earlier. If they're buying Mackenzie Gore, they could add another starter. I mean, I know that the Braves have been in talks about adding another starter, although the TV deal issues there and for the Rangers might play a role. Lots going on. But thanks everybody for tuning in to us here tonight. David, you got any final thoughts on this episode?
Nope.
All right. Well, that'll wrap it up for us then. We'll see you next time, and thanks for watching.